Perry's weekend. All right, the conservative punditry is in near meltdown mode, and certainly you'd have to put the conservative faithful in Florida in that camp as well, if at a minimum wanting to send a message to Rick Perry over the weekend, and at most haven't given up on him. My question is whether or not this is sort of jump the shark here a little bit, and whether one debate performance and straw poll performance can be enough to end the candidacy. But some people are really hyperventilating over Rick Perry's performance in Florida last week. Evan Smith, who has covered the governor as editor-in-chief of the Texas Tribune, joins us now to talk a little bit about this. Evan, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Good morning. Just fine. And I share your point of view that everybody is getting a little bit ahead of themselves on dismissing Perry out of hand at this point. The race is not even remotely over.
Yeah, I mean, this is hyperventilation mode. I don't. Do you think it's a case of he just came on so hot, so fast that this is a chance for some people who maybe aren't all that thrilled about that to pile on here a little bit? What's going on here?
We have a this year's model problem in politics, and we have an ADD problem in politics. On the one hand, people fall into favor because people are looking for something new, and we all get crazy affectionate toward them, and that's probably unhealthy because invariably that's going to cool off. And so the expectations bar gets set pretty high, and then it becomes impossible after a couple days or a couple weeks for a candidate to meet those high expectations. But we have another problem, which is we're constantly looking for something else. It's the equivalent of the person at the party who shakes your hand but is looking over your shoulder for somebody more important to talk to. And the reality is that after a few weeks, people go, well, wait a minute, maybe there's somebody better out there. I think this Chris Christie thing is a totally ridiculous pursuit. He's not running. He's not going to run. The field is set. I don't believe Governor Palin's going to run. That's my perspective on this anyway. And the choice for Republicans in the primary is going to be the field in front of us, which, you and I both know, practically speaking, means Romney versus Perry. The reality is, I disagree with you about one thing you said in the setup. It wasn't one debate, it's three debates. And his performance in those debates has gotten progressively worse. But people forget that Reagan wasn't a very good debater initially, first couple of debates. Bush was never a good debater. Both of them certainly suffered for it in terms of how people talked about them, but they ultimately won the nominations and won the presidency. I don't think you can take Perry out of consideration simply on the basis of these debates.
Yeah, and, what he said I thought was pretty smart when he talked about the fact that, look, it's not who the slickest candidate is or the smoothest debater that we need to elect. We need to elect the candidate with the best record and the best vision for the country. Now, Perry saying that on the heels of a poor debate performance, or one could say, not the best debate performances. I thought he was okay in 1 and 2, just okay. Certainly held his own, but it was a meltdown in the third. There's no question. But I also think, have we not been down this road before of being wooed by the greatest debater? I do think he has a point to say, wait a minute here. Let's compare Texas to Massachusetts as an example. Let's compare
the fact is, honestly, Obama wasn't all that great as a debater against Hillary Clinton in the primaries either. If you recall, people were underwhelmed by Obama's debate performance. Now, look, it's not at all the case that the governor is out of the woods here. I think the Herman Cain thing in Florida. Let's just say that it's better he was not beaten by Romney. Right? The Herman Cain thing in Florida is a distraction for him. He wanted to win it. There were not that many candidates on the ballot. It's a little bit of an embarrassment, and maybe it's a setback in terms of the story that people are telling today. But at the end of the day, the fundraising that the governor has done is going to be on par or on pace with Romney, if not a little bit ahead. And the base still loves him. I think the immigration thing is the rare place where the base and the governor disagree. And the question at the end of the day, as I heard another reporter say it on the radio this morning, is the Republican base going to be more willing to swallow Romney's health care problem or Perry's immigration problem as they view it? I put problem in quotes. And I think the answer is that Perry is a doctrinaire conservative who on this one issue, because of the way he's governed his state, views the world differently than the base does. But I think they have a much bigger problem with Romney. I think that Romney creates suspicion in the minds of the Republican base that they're going to have a hard time getting over. And I think the electability question is one that everybody talks about, but nobody actually knows the answer to. I don't know who's electable in this environment. I frankly don't know. You might say that Romney's more electable from the standpoint of getting independents to support him and conservative Democrats, but I'm not certain that the base turns out enthusiastically.
Here's one of the things I think it's inconsistent with the punditry going into hyperventilation mode over Perry's performance. Rick Perry's 5 weeks into this race, and they're writing him off because of one debate performance. Mitt Romney's been at this 5 years. He's been wooing Florida voters for 5 years, and Herman Cain beat him worse than he beat Rick Perry.
Well, they're 1 point apart, Perry and Romney, but I don't disagree with you. I think that Romney is a significantly better candidate this time than he was last time. He's a much more practiced debater. He's more polished.
I agree with you.
But fundamentally, he is who he is, and which is ironic because the big knock on him is that he isn't who he is. But at the end of the day, people are going to look at Romney and they're going to still have the same suspicions. I mean, I know that there's discussion now that the poll out this morning said that 50% of conservatives are willing to compromise to get the economy moving again. You can read that as code for they're willing to say, well, we'd accept somebody who doesn't agree with us all the time if we thought he could do a better job on the economy. I just don't think we know how this is going to go. These two guys are going to beat the stuffing out of each other for the next number of months. They're going to have enough money to do it. There's nobody else in the field who has the potential. I mean, no disrespect to Governor Huntsman, but Governor Huntsman saying today, I'm going to win New Hampshire, there's about a 1% chance of that happening. So I think we're looking at Romney versus Perry. I don't think the storyline has changed too much. It's going to be a long haul. It's going to be a big fight.
I'm curious, as someone has followed him for some time, Evan Smith, by the way, editor-in-chief of Texas Tribune with us, how you see Perry reacting to this, and if there's any parallel in any of his governor's races. I mean, he's had a tight race for re-election as governor before. I mean, has he been in a pickle like this before, and does he come out swinging?
Well, in fact, I think the opposite is true. I don't think the governor is... this is, I think, an interesting commentary on the current state of the race. The governor has run 9 times and won 9 times. The statewide races he's run have primarily been run in an environment in which the Republicans held every single statewide office. Democrats in Texas have not been elected to statewide office since 1994. He's never really had a general election race. Put another way, he's never had to moderate or modulate or calibrate his views or the way he expresses them. The March primary is the general election. So how do you win a March primary? By being the most doctrinaire and the most ardent conservative. In a state like Texas, at least, that's the case. So the governor we're seeing, the unapologetic governor, the guy who is, I am who I am, this is what I believe, if you don't like it, lump it. That's the governor who has won and run successfully here all these years. I actually don't know that Rick Perry has behaved any differently than I expected, because what I've known him to do is exactly what I see him doing on the stump right now. The trick is going to be, if he gets into a general election, he's not running for president of Texas. He's not running for president of the Federal Republic of anti-Obama. He's running for president of all 50 states, and he could forget about the blue states. But it's the purple states that are going to decide this election. You know, people think it's going to be Indiana, Virginia, North Carolina. I think the president's going to have a hard time holding those this time. I think the bigger issue is the Nevada, Colorado, New Mexico states, the ones that are naturally purple by inclination, and not incidentally have a high percentage of Hispanics. And I think the Hispanic vote's going to be very important to the resolution of this campaign.
Evan Smith from Texas Tribune on Rick Perry's weekend and his chances going forward. Great insight. Thanks, Evan. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, man.
We'll tackle some North Dakota Party politics with Gary Emmett of the Tea Party Caucus, former chairman of the GOP, when we come back on the Common Sense Club. Stay tuned.
Calling all shooters. Obscure.com is your source for targets and head-to-toe tactical gear. This week only, radio listeners save 25% on our exclusive shooting targets. We've got training targets, 3D targets, Zombie Osama, and our exclusive real threat targets. Check them out at Obscure.com. Use coupon code GCN at checkout. That's GCN and save 25% on all Obscure targets. Plus, we give away great gear each week. Visit us at Obscure.com. That's OPSGEAR.com or call 888-239